Hi and welcome to episode 3 of In the Key of C. Today we're going to be looking at the same 6 chords that we've done in episode 1 and 2, but now in a new position and fingerings. This shape is known as the C and D shape. I would prefer you to start knowing the shapes by their roots, and I would say this shape has its root on the D string. Just like the E shape has its root on the E, the A shape, bar chord has its root on the E. Now we've got the D, which is a movable chord, but its root is now on that 4th, okay? And it is the same as the C bar chord or D bar chord, depending on which system you look at. But without confusing it, I think it makes it very clear just knowing that the root, we're following the same sequence of notes like the E shape and the A shape, except we're going to be down in, or we're in a new position. So it's exactly the same order of notes, unlike the C and the D, where you, when you actually are playing the bar chord there, the root is no longer, the root is actually on the A string. It's not on the D string. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. If you look at the chord diagrams, that should be a little bit clearer and make sense. And if you don't or can't get your head around any of that, then please send me a message and I can explain that a little bit better. Don't think too much of it. Just get your fingers and your head around the chords, and we'll go from there. So as I said, the first chord we're going to be playing today is a C major. Okay, so they're just 4-finger chords. This one's a little bit tricky because we've got such a stretch between that first and the second. Okay, the actual D shape isn't all that hard, but it can be a little bit tricky with but the gap between our first and second fingers. So the E and the A are not played, okay, and then we've got our first finger on the 10th fret of the D string, we've got our second finger on the 12th fret of the G string, we've got our 4th finger on the 13th fret of the B string, and our 3rd finger on the 12th fret of the E string. Okay, and as I said, a little bit tricky, but it's a useful chord. More so, it's not a chord that I would regularly have in my arsenal, but it's an important chord when we're looking at scales and arpeggios, because it makes a lot of sense where the notes come from when you understand the position. Okay, now the D, as I said, the C major is made up of the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the C major 7. Okay, which means we've got that 7th now, and the fingering is as follows. So we're not playing the top 2 strings. We've got our first finger on the 10th fret of the D string. We've got our 3rd finger barring the G, the B, and the E at the 12th fret. It's a lovely chord. Okay. And as I've said previously with the bar, if you're having issues with that bar, then just practice a couple of strings at a time, and then go from 2 to 3. Try it in different positions where it's a little bit more comfortable. Again, this is one you could do with your 4th finger. I would probably like you to play it with the 3rd finger, because structurally that makes a bit more sense with the actual shape that we're in. But if the 4th is comfortable and it means that you're ringing it out nicely, then play with the 4th finger by all means. Okay, so that's the C major 7, and that's made up of the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. Okay, our next chord is the C dominant 7. Okay, And the fingering is as follows. We don't play the E or the A. We've got our first finger on the 10th fret of the D string. We've got our third finger on the 12th fret of the G string. We've got our second finger on the 11th fret of the B string. And our fourth finger on the 12th fret of the E string. Okay, so just practice as always, taking it on and off, and nice smooth arpeggio. And really listen to that dominant, that flattened 7th in there. That's the major 7, that's the dominant 7. Okay, and the 7th's made up of the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, and the flattened 7th. Okay, now moving into our minor shaped chords. So as you're aware, our D minor, like this, is how we would play it openly. Now we'll be moving this all the way up to our C position. Okay, so there's our root on the 10th fret of the D string. Then we've got our third finger on the 12th fret of the G string. Got our fourth finger on the 13th fret of the B string, and then our second finger is on the 11th fret of the E string. Okay, the reason these are looking like they're quite high up the fretboard is because I've intentionally kept all of them in the key of C. So this will unravel as we continue through the course, but I like to just stick to a number of chords. The 6 that we have are all wonderfully related, and it's going to open up a lot of things once I start unpacking it. So do your best to get the 18 chords down, which will have been since the first episode. Just like the positions and just be familiar with them. It doesn't matter if you can't play them. I'm not going to be asking you to play a song with them anytime soon. So just get familiar with them and understand why and how they're put together. Okay, so after the D minor, we've now got after the C minor, we've now got a C minor 7. Okay, and if I didn't mention before, the C minor is made up of a 1st, a flattened 3rd, and a 5th. And now the C minor 7 is just introducing the flattened 7th. So that will be made up of the 1st, the flattened 3rd, the 5th, and the flattened 7th. Okay, and the notes are as follows. So we're not playing the top 2 strings. We've got our first finger on the 10th fret of the D string. Got our fourth finger on the 12th fret of the G string, and our second finger on the 11th fret of the B string, and our third finger on the 11th fret of the E string. Okay, so a slight difference between the two. Okay, good to practice moving between them both. And you've probably guessed it, the last one is the C minor 7 flat 5, also known as the half diminished. Okay, but now we're up here. Okay, so we've got our first finger on the 10th fret of the D string, and then our second finger is going to be barring at the 11th fret, the G, the B, and the E. So this is a good one as well. If you can't play it, if you're having troubles using your second finger to bar it, then use your third. Definitely not the fourth there, that you will be quite squashed if that's the case. But there is the C minor 7 flat 5, that's made up of the 1st, the flattened 3rd, the flattened 5th, and the flattened 7th. Okay, So if I run through very quickly all of those chords, we've got C major, we'll do the E shape first, so we've got C major, then we've got C major 7, then we've got C7, then we've got C minor, C minor 7, C minor 7, flat 5. And the same down here, we've got C major 7, C dominant 7, then we've got C minor 7, C minor 7, flat 5. And now in our new position, we've got C major 7, C dominant 7, C minor 7, and C minor 7, flat 5. Okay, so they're the 18 chords. That's all you're going to need to know chord-wise. I know that sounds like a lot of chords, but it is only 6 chords in 3 different positions. Okay, and I'm going to be taking it slowly in this course. They're not going to be daily. They're just going to be when I'm available to record, and it's going to be an exciting little journey, I think, and you should get a lot out of it. So I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. As I'd mentioned before, the D shape and the C shape, while it's perfectly fine to label them that, also just be aware that the root in the shape that I've just showed you comes from the D string. Okay, so we've got bar chords off the E, bar chords off the A, and bar chords now off the D. Okay, so next lesson I'm going to actually run through the related chords of the C major, so you can see how these chords start to fit in, and that will be before we start looking a little bit deeper into some scales and some arpeggios and some harmonies, harmonic work around the wonderful key of C. So I'll see you next time, guys. Take care. Bye.